Today we shop with a single click. But once the world had no stores, no money, not even a price tag. Just people, struggling to survive, learning to trust and to share. Before civilization, before wealth, there was the first exchange, the first spark of trade. This is how humanity learned to shop. In that first moment, one hand simply reached out to another, perhaps offering a basket of wheat, perhaps a single fish. But that small gesture completely changed the course of history, because there, in the middle of those barren lands, humanity understood the idea of value for the very first time. From then on, trade was no longer just about need, it was about sharing, trusting, and understanding. In the early days of human settlements, people gathered in open spaces, not to fight, but to trade. A hunter would lay down his tools, and a farmer would offer his grain. There was no money, no stalls, only trust. Every exchange carried a simple promise. What I have can help you, and what you have can help me. This was the first act of human cooperation, and the beginning of what we now call trade. But soon, a problem appeared. What if the shoemaker didn't need fish that day? Or the fisherman didn't need a new pair of shoes? Every trade depended on perfect timing. Both people had to need what the other person owned at the same moment. And when that didn't happen, trade stopped. The barter system had connected people, but it also revealed a new problem. Value could not be measured by trust alone. In the fertile lands of the Tigris and Euphrates, people built the first great villages of trade. Under the scorching sun, farmers brought their grain, shepherds carried the wool they had shorn, and potters bore pots still warm from the kiln. These early markets were full of life. Voices echoed, hands reached out, and trust bound people together with invisible threads. But as trade grew, memory was no longer enough. Who had traded what? How many sacks of grain were given for a single sheep? The need for something lasting, for writing, began to rise from the earth itself. Humanity was about to give value its first true form. And so, in ancient Mesopotamia, the Sumerians found a way. They carved small symbols into soft clay, signs that told the stories of trade, of promises, and of debts. One line for a sack of grain, another for a sheep, and another for a jar of honey. Each symbol was more than just a number. It was a record of trust, a memory that would not fade with time. For the first time, humanity expressed value not with words or gestures, but with signs. These humble clay tablets became the first documents of trade, the ancestors of money, commerce, and the economy itself. As villages grew into cities, trade found its home in the heart of Uruk. The air was thick with voices, footsteps, and the hum of exchange. Merchants lined the city square, their baskets overflowing with grain, fabrics, and livestock. Here, buying and selling became more than survival. It became routine, even celebration. The first marketplaces were not just places to trade goods. They were places to trade ideas, stories, and trust. For the first time, commerce became the rhythm of daily life. Under the shade of simple tents, people gathered from near and far. Farmers from distant fields met travelers carrying strange spices and colored fabrics. Every voice told a story. Every trade built connection. These early bazaars were alive, vibrant, chaotic, human. And as the sun set over Uruk's dusty streets, one thing was clear. Humanity had built something greater than a market. They had built community. As cities like Uruk and Babylon grew, trade took on a new shape. No longer just open squares or dusty roads. Merchants began building small stalls, clay-walled and shaded from the sun. Here, fabrics hung from doorways, pottery gleamed in the afternoon light, and the air was filled with the rhythm of bargaining. These were more than market stands. They were the first shops. For the first time, people didn't just trade what they had. They began to create what others desired. As cities like Uruk and Babylon grew, trade took on a new shape. No longer just open squares or dusty roads. Merchants began building small inside these humble walls. A quiet revolution began. A merchant woman arranged her pots on a shelf, each one shaped by her hands, each one holding her craft, her time, her story. People came not only to buy, but to choose. They compared, they admired, they decided. This was the birth of something deeply human, the idea of ownership and the joy of exchange. The first shops were not just places to sell goods. They were the places where desire met creation. In time, trade became more than business. It became connection. Inside crowded markets, voices rose and laughter echoed between clay walls. A farmer might not leave with more grain, but he left with stories, news, and friendships. Every bargain was a conversation, every coin or handshake a bridge between strangers. The marketplace became humanity's first social network, a place where culture, trust, and community were traded side by side. Among baskets of spices and jars of oil, stories began to travel. A merchant told tales of distant lands, of strange goods, new inventions, and unseen worlds. These stories spread faster than any caravan. They carried ideas, beliefs, and dreams. In the heart of every market beat the spirit of humanity. Not the need to sell, but the need to share. Centuries later, far from Mesopotamia, a new idea was born in the land of Lydia. In the glow of a forge, a craftsman struck metal against an anvil, and for the first time, value took shape in gold. No longer carved in clay or spoken in promise, it could now be held, weighed, and carried. The first coins shimmered with trust, small circles of metal that would change the world. With each strike, humanity redefined trade, giving birth to the age of money. In that small coin lay something powerful, a promise everyone could understand. Gold became trust, weight became worth, and exchange became effortless. A farmer no longer needed to find a shoemaker at the right moment. The coin itself spoke for him, carrying his value wherever it went. Now trade could travel, from villages to cities, from hands to empires. Markets began to change, prices began to form, and with them the very idea of economy was born. That single glint of gold reshaped the human story, turning survival into commerce, and commerce into civilization. With coins in hand, trade began to move faster, smoother, smarter. Inside dimly lit shops, coins clinked against wooden counters. A new sound, the heartbeat of civilization. Scales weighed not just goods, but fairness itself. Merchants learned to measure, to count, to calculate. No longer was trade just survival, it was becoming science. Prices emerged, profit appeared, and competition was born. Every coin that changed hands carried more than metal. It carried trust, ambition, and progress. The marketplace had evolved from chaos to system, from barter to economy. Across the ancient world, the sound of coins echoed. From Greece to Persia, from Lydia to Rome. Trade united people who spoke no common language. A single coin could cross borders, oceans, and generations. Markets became organized, shopkeepers specialized, and customers began to expect choice and quality. The act of buying and selling had become universal, the world's first shared behavior. And in every marketplace, beneath the noise of trade, one truth remained. Value was no longer just what you owned. It was what others believed it was worth. In the quiet glow of candlelight, a merchant sits alone. He counts his coins, but one by one, not with greed, but with curiosity. For the first time he realizes, some trades bring more than others. He begins to see patterns, timing, demand, scarcity. The shop is no longer just a place to sell, it's a place to strategize, to calculate, to plan. And in that flickering light, a new idea is born. Not just exchange, but profit. A concept that would shape every market, every city, and every dream that followed. Beside him, an accountant presses a reed into wet clay, recording not goods, but numbers, debts, earnings, promises, all captured in lines and symbols. What began as survival had turned into a system, a language of trade and logic. Every mark on the tablet meant control, prediction, power. Humanity had discovered something profound. The future could be measured, planned, shaped. And with that, the first foundations of business were set. The birth of management, of economy, of the endless pursuit of growth. The world had grown wider. Across the blue seas of the Mediterranean, sails carried more than goods. They carried ideas, languages, and dreams. In the Greek agora, marble columns rose over a sea of voices. Merchants sold olive oil, wine, and stories from distant lands. Trade was no longer about survival. It was about connection, reputation, identity. Every transaction was a meeting of worlds. Every coin a shared belief in value. Commerce had become culture, a rhythm that united cities, people, and empires. In Rome, the hum of trade echoed through narrow stone streets. Bakers, cloth sellers, and spice merchants filled the tabernae. Small shops that pulsed with life and ambition. Coins clinked, deals were made, and with every exchange, Rome's power grew stronger. Roads stretched from Britain to Egypt, carrying not just armies, but commerce itself. Trade had become the empire's heartbeat. proof that value could move faster than borders, and that civilization itself was built upon exchange. Time moved forward, but the rhythm of trade never stopped. The bustling ancient markets faded into medieval bazaars, where coins and goods flowed through the hands of guilds and travelers. Then came glass windows, wooden shelves, and signs above doors, the birth of the shop. Trade was no longer just survival or power. It was art, design, experience. The world began to chase not just what we buy, but how we buy it. The spirit of the first barter still lived on, reshaped by time but never forgotten. Yet beneath every transaction lies the same ancient heartbeat, the desire to connect, to exchange, to trust. From clay tablets to digital ledgers, from marketplaces to online stores, our story has always been about one thing: the human search for value. What began under the sun of Mesopotamia now glows through the light of our cities. Proof that trade isn't just history, it's who we are. From the dust of Uruk to the glow of neon markets, our story has always been the same: hands reaching out, exchanging trust. The first trade wasn't just about goods. It was about understanding, connection, survival. And even now in our modern world of screens and stores, every purchase still whispers that ancient truth. We trade, therefore, we exist. If you enjoyed this journey through the origins of trade, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, so you don't miss the next chapter in Market Through Time. The story of commerce has just begun. And so, from a simple trade, grain for cloth, trust for trust, humanity built something far greater. From hands exchanging goods, to symbols pressed into clay, to fire forging the first coin. That's how the world learned to measure value, not with promises, but with metal. Yet this was only the beginning, because soon money would reshape everything: power, empire, and even the way we see worth itself. In the next chapter of A Market Through Time, the birth of money. Subscribe now, because the story of trade has only just begun.